What is Ben 10 Delta? Well, this fan comic was created by the incredible artist Doc Z Art, and it takes place between the events of Classic and Alien Force. Ben Tennyson in this reality never took off the Omnitrix for the 5 years that he did in the original show, but he kept it on and continued to mature with it. This comic picks up when Ben is 14 years old, and it explores his journey as a hero at that point, so it's sort of right before the plot of Alien Force would start. Azimuth gave the Omnitrix a few upgrades, with a key one being the quick switch function. Ben abuses stuff like that and the Lifeform lock mode to be on constant patrol in Bellwood. This all stems from his first major loss, which is when malware took away feedback. These dark times have impacted Ben's mentality in both this and the Prime timeline, where it's even speculated to have been the reason he removed the Omnitrix in the first place. In Delta, this has impacted Ben differently, as it now has strengthened his resolve for crime fighting and hero work, nearly to a point of obsession. He seems to be addicted to trying to do good, but a panel of when he was on the roof of the RV reveals that he is actually looking down on himself, as he still believes that he isn't doing enough. I love this depiction of how Ben's trauma has affected him and has given him a sort of imposter syndrome as he tries to fill the gap that has been created by his failure. This is what influences Ben Tennyson to join the Plumbers Academy, and that's the major thing that starts Ben 10 Delta. Now let's get into the Deltaverse by talking about these three main things in the comic, which are the Omnitrix, the characters, and the Plumbers. The new Delta Omnitrix has quite a few new things that Ben 10 will be using throughout the course of the series. In Chapter 0, Azimuth took away the watch from him, not as a means of banning him from using it, but because he was inspired by Ben's tenacity and resolve after losing feedback. So once he took it away, he upgraded it and gave it the whole new gauntlet feature and a few other new tweaks. Ben now has new functions that he uses pretty often, which are things like the quick switch function, which enables him to swap between aliens. So assumedly in this timeline, he got access to swapping through aliens much sooner. It's an excellent function for combat, and it really levels up Ben Tennyson's power. He also gains access to things like the Lifeform lock mode, which enables him to stay in a singular alien transformation for hours on end. First time we saw this in the original show was in the episode Frogs of War Part 2, when Ben debuted as Bullfrog. This is actually a really good mode to have for Kid Ben as well, which is paired with the quick switch function, making it the closest thing he'll be getting to having master control. Along with that, Ben has new Omnitrix specific modifications. I think we saw one of the main ones in Chapter 3 named Departure, where the Omnitrix had a holographic shield that was strong enough to block one of Gwen's mana blasts. So it gives him more human functionality instead of solely depending on being in alien form. It's really shown up in this specific situation when Ben used it, where he didn't even have enough time to go into alien form, which would have enabled him to be able to block or tank the blast. So the shield construct was the next best thing for defensive capabilities. This new Omnitrix gives Ben so much variety and range as possible for combat in human and alien form. Now outside of his human form, Ben has gotten a few aliens that he did not have access to at the age of 14. Outside of stuff from the classic series, or at least the main 23, we see Ben with a few new aliens. Stuff like Echo Echo and Big Chill have already made their debuts in Ben 10 Delta, with their own unique classic sort of design. It makes sense since both of these aliens are now coming out of the prototype Omnitrix that normally blends Ben's alien form with the black and white aesthetic that comes from his clothing. So we're seeing this being combined with the Alien Force aliens. The whole new thing to know is that this watch does not show alien icons like what we are used to from the classic Omnitrix, as it seems Azimuth has put another new upgrade in the watch, which is to put holographic projections of the aliens for their selection there, which is quite interesting as it seems to be a sort of manual pseudo calibration by the great thinker. It is more interesting that it is now well suited and more fit for hero combat than ever before, without being the completely recalibrated Alien Force Omnitrix. The next thing that complements Ben's new Omnitrix though is his new, more mature character and his relationships with the new characters in the show. Firstly is Gwen. Her mana has now matured into being a bright rose pink, and has evolved from being the blue of the novice magic user. She uses her mana construct just as much as you saw her do in Alien Force, which gives her various capabilities such as flight and mana shields. We saw this shown mostly in Chapter 2 when Ben decided to depart for the Plumber Academy, and she was the one to drop him off at the location for his departure. In that moment, both of them exchanged words of great value to show how important they are to each other. It was actually incredibly wholesome. But another character to note is Grandpa Max. I don't see much changes on Grandpa Max besides him being the mature father figure of the show. I mean, he looks a bit slimmer in design, but that's pretty much it. He's the main conduit to introduce us to some very important characters that might be mainstays for the comic going forward. Firstly is Lucy Mann. Now this is Ben's cousin who is a Lenopan. These are mud aliens who have the ability to shapeshift. She doesn't seem to be much different from her counterpart in the original show since she's still overly perky and energized, but I think she makes a really good addition to being a part of this new main cast because her character and powers are really interesting. She's made a few appearances in Omniverse, which are some really good episodes, especially the flashback episode with Ben, Gwen, and Cooper. Speaking of Cooper, he's another part of the main cast. He's a technopath, having made his debut in the episode Ben 10 vs the Negative 10, which was the finale of Classic. Cooper has had one of the most interesting abilities in the show, being able to control technology with his mind. He poses to be another essentially interesting character in Ben 10 Delta. He even has mechanical arms, which has been quite the interesting choice. I'm assuming that his mechanical arms have weaponry inside, and it kind of gives me a vibe like Arsenal from Young Justice. He is accompanied by a very interesting addition to the team, which is Kai Green. I'm not so sure why Doug Z decided to add her to the team, besides being an interesting love interest for Ben, and I think my point of her probably not being so useful is proven when they have a moment to show Ben Tennyson why they're going to be a part of the main cast. These three are supposedly accompanying Ben to the Plumber Academy, and are the main parts of Team Delta. Hence, Ben 10 Delta. Anyways, Kai is the first to attack Ben, as a means of showing him that he needs a team, and they're trying to force him to be a part of such. She charges at him and it seems that her attack is completely neutralized within seconds, without Ben even having to go alien. I'm still wondering why she's a part of this squad, but Cooper is able to clutch it up with an incredible force field that should neutralize Ben completely. However, Ben's Omnitrix is still available, so he uses it and phases right through the force field and is ready to wipe the team with Big Chill. However, Ben gets shot down by a fourth character, a very important one, Magister Gil the Frogman. Is this guy an incursion? Anyways, he first showed up in the episode Dark Star Rising as an investigative plumber in this sector of the universe, which the Earth sector is supposedly not needing of a plumber, which is kinda crazy. His episode of introduction had a lot of stuff going on, where Kevin lost his plumber badge, Darkstar returned to the fray to take his revenge, and the Hybrid were still plotting their invasion. Now he one-shots Ben with his plumber laser. That moment sort of cements him as the de facto leader of the group, or the new father figure. They capture Ben officially here, and they take him onto the ship where the plan has now been introduced to the rest of the cast and us the viewers. So you see, for the members here, they are going to be a part of Team Delta, which will be important for taking on secret covert missions, with the main team members being broken up into 4 major parts, with Lucy being the perfect infiltrator, because of her incredible shape-shifting powers and ability to be covert. Kai Green being the specialist field operative, whatever that means. I'm still not a fan of you, Kai. You're really gonna have to prove yourself in this comic.
Take over! I'll save these!
And of course, Cooper being the cyber operative, since he's literally a technopath who can control stuff with his mind. And lastly is Ben Tennyson, who isn't very suited for covert missions, or at least by his own definition. I personally think Ben can be really covert. We've seen that in multiple episodes of different iterations of the show. He's done it so much with Grey Matter, etc. But Ben is their backup. He is Weapon X of the group, the bailout in case things get too rough. So Ben sort of acts like the Luffy or the All Might of the group, the one character that you can rely on if a fight is getting too difficult. I think this team structure and dynamic is literally genius. The way the story has been set up for it to work is perfect, because this Weapon X isn't undefeatable. But I think we should talk more about where they're going, which is the Plumbers Academy. Now this is a strict space sort of military or cop setting in Ben 10, and that has been so severely underused that it's actually kind of crazy. I think with Ben 10 Delta diving more into this unexplored piece of Ben 10 lore is great. The deepest explorations we have gotten are in bits and pieces all over the franchise. Their first real introduction came from the episode Truth, which was the first of the season 2 of Ben 10. And we've only gotten their lore to be slightly expanded on since then, with the best rendition of what it's like to be a plumber coming from an episode all the way in Ultimate Alien called Basic Training. So I'm expecting a lot of Ben's day-to-day activities to really pull from what it was like in that episode. Another really important detail that I want to note is how Magister Gale took down Ben Tennyson. Now his Shock Blast laser is built off of the Aerophibian Neuroshock Blast biology. It's quite interesting because I think this is the first adaptation of Ben 10 material that actually uses the Aerophibian Shock Blast correctly, because even in the show itself, it's hitting targets and behaving like an actual laser beam when really it should be completely disabling your nervous system. So this is really cool to show that the Plumbers have high level alien technology that would make them extra formidable, even though they don't have crazy powers like the Omnitrix. The comic is still in its infancy, but I am quite interested in seeing how this story will develop.
But on a side note, let me tell you about something sick I saw the other day.
The Chakitrix season finale just dropped, and it is sick in every sense of the word. 3 completely new sick aliens, each with bizarre symptoms straight out of the Side Effect episode